Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hard Truth with myself, David Vance.
And ILANA Mercer. Hello.
Hello, Alana. Great to see you again. Another week has gone by, and here we are back on the podcast. So, everybody, just to say, as you're watching this, make sure you subscribe to the podcast channel, and make sure you also, as we're showing you, if you're watching this one on the video channels, make sure you subscribe to them as well. Also, please make sure you subscribe to Alana's channels, including her YouTube and her various social media channels. So, Alana, 1 week ago, here we were talking about Afghanistan. And here we are again 1 week on, and we're still got to have a chat about Afghanistan because it's dominating the channel.
You being so energetic, you're getting a little impatient with this Afghanistan business. You want to move on. And I said to you, not so fast, David. There's a lot to cover here. So many mistakes over 2 decades that you and I have been warning about. And so you raised a few interesting points. Especially, we were discussing in our email exchange, who are these Americans? I'm fascinated by the Americans, 20,000, 30,000 strong, who have not yet been rescued. We hear some snippets of desperate people, and not one member of the moron media, the malfunctioning media, has asked, who are these people? And you did some digging, David.
Well, yeah. Well, Alana, you asked a very sensible question. I mean, who are they? Because it's a lot of people that have suddenly appeared on radar, and the numbers keep changing. Here's the other thing. Just before we've come on air, Alana, I saw a bit of information flashed across my screen from the White House. So spoiler alert, it won't be accurate, but they're saying that they've airlifted 4,500 out of 6,000. But I don't believe the 6,000. I don't know where that number is coming from, But they say, and Jennifer Zaki was saying, apparently it's the most successful airlift ever. So there you go. She sees it as a success. So, Alana, you asked the question, well, who are all these people? I mean, there's thousands and thousands of people.
David, you actually came up with the exact link, in fact, that even corresponds. We'll keep our readers and our viewers and listeners hanging a little by an edge. But yes, who are these people? I Googled nationalities, origins, their whereabouts, their occupations. What on earth are 30,000, 20,000 people doing in such inhospitable climes? I mean, Afghanis have hardly embraced America, despite the images we keep seeing on the television of people, wanting us to stay. I mean, that's not the majority, right? So who are these people? And I suspected that most of them have something to do with the military-industrial complex and with the insane project that has gone on in Afghanistan for 2 decades, and that they probably hunker down within heavily fortified green zones. And you came up with the info. Tell us.
Well, yeah, Alana, because you asked me a very good question. Well, where do these people come from, and what are they doing there? So I actually did dig up a site, and I think we have got. If we can bring up, we've got a chart. Which I think we should share if we just bring it up on screen, and I'll talk it through, Alana, for those that are listening to it. So this is the contractors by mission area in Afghanistan. I found this on a particular website, and as you can see, Alana, it breaks them down. There's people in IT support, logistics, maintenance, quite a lot of people in security, which made me laugh because I thought this was the US military. Do they need to get additional security? How does that one work? Then the obvious things like translators and interpreters. But on top of this chart, Alana, on top of this, I also read with great interest, there are people like humanitarian organizations, charitable organizations. And whenever I hear those things, I don't know about you, but I become mega, mega suspicious. So this is the kind of amorphous group which appears to have been left behind.
Well, these are private contractors.
Yeah.
I think that the excellent website you found, Danger Zone Jobs,
Yeah.
which this website tracks pretty accurately more than 300 companies with overseas contracting jobs in Afghanistan, Iraq, and other countries,
Mm. ...
that we have occupied or in which we meddle, like the Russians meddle, so-called meddle in our,
Yeah. Yeah. Allegedly. Yeah.
yeah, like so-called, yeah.
Yeah.
So the primary source of jobs in Afghanistan are private contractors supporting the military and companies who subcontract, as you said, the NGOs, the relief.
Yeah.
And what was remarkable, they had the numbers for 2009 that you sent me. Translators, there were 2,000 interpreters, 2,000, just upwards of 2,000. But apparently, we're going to be accommodating close to half a million Afghanis. So there were 2,000 translators training, very amorphous, as you say. 1,300 security, 1,400 security. Yeah, that's a funny one. Other is 690 for other. Medical and dental is 88. Management, administrative, it's a job-making scheme. War, David, is the health of the state and the statists. Isn't that the case?
I think absolutely, ILANA. And this is a wonderful example of it. And that's why it's good for us to talk about it here in Hard Truth. Because as you say, the moron media, they've completely, they're just Americans, just American citizens, just trapped out there.
Yeah.
No one has asked the obvious question that you and I have talked. Well, okay, let's get a bit more detail on. And as you say, they're part of the war machine. They're the same people, Iraq, Syria, Libya, wherever.
David, and we're not saying leave them there, but this is part of the sunk costs, the money and the resources and the paid all by taxpayers that we'll never see a return and we'll never have an accounting over. And of course, Fox News being really a show business, a circus, other than our beloved Tucker Carlson. The blowhards there at Fox News have been whooping it up in a most partisan fashion with this battle cry of hostages, Americans behind enemy lines, teach the Taliban a lesson, corn pop, So these people who are part of the military-industrial complex are really serving as a sort of prop for the Republican side of the equation in getting points against the Biden administration. Of course, that's easy, as you said last week. Quite funnily, you said Biden is slightly more popular than the plague. But
yeah, I think that level has dropped. This in the past week, ILANA, he's now gone below that. So I think potentially the Spanish flu is still a little bit less popular than him. But yeah. I mean, it's easy to score points with Biden because it is catastrophic in so many ways. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But it is good to ask these questions because this is a money making racket essentially that's been blown up. That's what it is.
And David, I haven't seen anyone. There's nothing on. You can Google this to your heart's content. There's nothing about all these Americans. 30,000 people in a very inhospitable country to Americans. What are they doing there? Not a question about it from our nanny state media. Most of whom want to export the nanny state to Afghanistan, and certainly the females on CNN and MSNBC are aghast that anyone's leaving that country. So there you have it. I think our listeners and viewers can be happy that we've provided the answer. This is an extension of the military-industrial complex. If you love it, that's it.
Yeah, but it is a vast number of people. The other thought I had was, ILANA, where are they all? Because we've seen the deserted military bases. So as you said, Afghanistan is a remarkably inhospitable country. So, I just wondered, where are these people? Because I don't think they're in the military bases. I might be wrong. But I think so. I mean, it's not as if Afghanistan is not, USA or it's not Europe. So I wondered where all these people are holed up.
Well, isn't it interesting? Because when we spoke about, I suspect there's going to be a Purple Heart for this pilot whose pictures we keep seeing, the C-17 filled to capacity,
Yeah,
actually over capacity, over 800 people, passengers, filled, and that the pilot is said to have been so courageous because he
bring it up. Yeah, let's bring it up, Jed. Let's bring the image up. There they go.
Yes. Where are the Americans? Well, I guess that could be part of the Americans we've just been discussing. We segue nicely into who's being uplifted, but I suspect not, because this was on the 22nd, David, and precisely at this time when we were lifting out of Kabul, thousands of these people. Correspondingly, the Jen Psaki said that there were about 290 Americans having been lifted.
Yeah.
So the proportions are there for you to mull.
Well, ILANA, it's a comment you made to me, and I thought it was a great comment in one of our many exchanges we have during the week. It's like we've got out of Afghanistan, so to speak, but Afghanistan's come here. It looks like it, because the numbers of Afghans coming to your country, to the US, and even to the UK, I'm horrified at what's happening. But it's like, just bring them in. And I didn't realize that, our economy lacked goat herders, but apparently it does. So that's why we have to have so many. But what's the excuse of the US then? Why are you bringing so many in, ILANA?
You mean, why are we bringing so many Afghanis? Well, because this pilot, David, really, I'm surprised at you, because this pilot is a hero. He made a quick call, and decided that all 800 of those passengers and more, he should lift them out. And as I say, a Purple Heart's going to happen for him. Yeah. And as Forbes slobbered, Forbes didn't ask, who are these people? Forbes wrote, lifting 6 times more people than an aircraft is designed to seat is heroic, absolutely heroic. And I just want to say that I'm surprised, David, that you don't know that the US military's allegiance is global, humanitarian. It's not national. Yeah. They don't work in the national interest.
No.
And in fact, the Navy tried to get away with that very message. In 2009, the Navy chose a slogan. Can you guess randomly what it was? Just the wildest. A global force for good. A global force for good. That was the Navy's motto in 2009, and there was slight objection, so they changed it.
Yeah.
So our pilot, who's bringing in loads and loads of unvetted people. I think they're going to be holed over in Qatar, but of course they'll make their way to the United States, if not through those channels, through the Latin American, the border that is open to Latin America and to the world. And that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, it's remarkable. It is remarkable, ILANA. Just hang on a second, my sound going a bit wonky. It's remarkable the way I see it. And the thing that concerned me is, before he gets his purple star, someone needs to ask, were those Afghans socially distanced on the plane? Because with the great plague that the world faces, was he not taking a risk with their precious lives? And also, I noticed they weren't masked, and I don't know that their vaccination status was clear. But it doesn't seem to matter.
David, you're so hateful, really. Masking, hugging, being without masks, like they are squatting next to your loved ones, hugging, being close with your community, that is not for Americans.
No, it's not. No.
Not for English, and not for Europeans, and certainly not for Australians, where they have one COVID death a day, but they are under military lockdown.
Oh yeah, they're under martial law down in Australia.
Yeah,
and actually New Zealand to a similar degree as well. But yeah, so I just was amazed at those images of those flights, as you said, bulging with anyone but Americans, or maybe the redefinition of Americans is something.
Oh, sorry, I do have the number. On the 22nd, Biden had answered their question. There were 169 Americans had been brought to the airport from beyond the perimeter of the airport. So there you have it. On the 22nd, there were 169 of these contractors, which we have discussed, that had been allowed beyond the very pushy locals who were clamoring. And if you see anything on television, David, at least here, I don't know if in England they're doing the same act, is the allegiance of the military is really to my translators, the people who are with me all the time. I want them here. I want their families here. It's a very strange sentiment.
It's incredible to behold, actually, ILANA. But of course the other thing is that was you just gave us figures there for the 22nd of August, I think, and that was But since then, from the 22nd until the time of this being recorded, which is the 25th, goes out on the 26th, but recorded on the 25th, they've gone from 169 to, according to Jen Psaki, 4,500. Which so the amount of purple stars that are going to be handed out, ILANA, it's going to be off. They're going to have to start making more of them. There's so many courageous pilots importing Afghans to the Western world. But of course, this is all driven. This is driven, ILANA, by Biden. Biden decided that the 31st of the month, which is the next Tuesday, I think, that's it. Everyone has to get out by then. And we've had the laughable spectacle of the UK saying to Joe, could you not extend this for a few days? Missing the fundamental and crucial point. It's the Taliban that call the shots now.
I was just going to say, but you complete my thoughts, really, David. This can't carry on, you and I.
No, but it's so true, isn't it? I mean, how come all our expert commentators, why do they not get this, ILANA? You say it, I say it. Why don't they?
That's right. The Taliban will call the shots. However, what has been missing, what alarmed me is the neoconservative narrative that is ongoing in our country. I don't know if it's the same in the UK and on the BBC, but it's Taliban, the terrorists. How can we negotiate? How can we take orders? Well, they took the country over with a very brilliant guerrilla warfare. And in fact, what they did is, because the Taliban is of the people and from the people, more than we are of the people and from the Afghani people, they went, province from province. Many of them are from these tribes, and they just struck deals and came to agreements, and aside from vanquishing and conquering as well. But so the Taliban control the place, and you know what? There are some... a lot of we were looking at the map beforehand of the Afghanistan's neighbors. Yes. Many of the Afghanistan's neighbors is, in fact, China, not least China, which has a border, a slim sort of section there. That is it on the east is Iran, on the west is. Let's bring. I think we've got the map. We can bring the map up, which we can describe. You've expertly described it there. So It's called Wakan Corridor, and the Chinese, they seem to have quite a modest foreign policy, unlike our own. I know that we are blindfolded by what we impute to the Chinese, all kinds of motivations, but they've been conducting quite sensible foreign policy, David, based on the national interest of the Chinese. And what is that national interest? That national interest is that we are not discussing this, but of course, after we put out our podcast, people, our conservative rivals monitor the dissident truths, the hard truths that we put out, and they will pick up on this. But the Chinese are worried about the Uyghurs, aren't they now?
Yes.
They're worried about the Uyghurs. They have interned the Uyghurs, and the Uyghurs are big fighters for the Taliban. Nobody is talking about that. The Uyghurs, except The Economist. I got an incredible article whereby The Economist gives you these facts, these hard truths. And the Uyghurs are big on the Taliban, obviously, because they are Muslim and many of them are radicalized. And that's what the Chinese are doing by trying to re-educate them, yes. Not that we approve of that, but that's the Chinese national interest. And they have been negotiating with the Taliban and making it very clear that you're not training our Uyghurs, and you're not sending any Uyghurs into China to to do their dirty deeds.
You see, that's a really interesting point, Ilana. And if if you can, if you're watching this, you can obviously see the map. But when you look, if you're listening to this, it is really a very good point. There is that, as you say, the Wakhan corridor, which is up a little slither, as you say, Ilana, up in the northeast. It's sort of a part of Afghanistan, and that connects to China. One thing I did see, by the way, I don't know if you saw it, but apparently now that the America have armed the Taliban in Afghanistan so superbly, they have now started to send some of those munitions and armaments into the Taliban in Pakistan. So great job, Joe Biden. Fantastic. I mean, if you wanted to destroy an area...
Explain, David, why would they do that? Wouldn't they... You mean, is that just sharing, giving them back because of the hospitality, the Pakistani hospitality? Why would the Taliban be doing that?
Well, but there is the Taliban in Pakistan. So,
yes.
so the fact is that, in some areas, borders, actually, ironically, borders don't matter too much. Apparently, I understand there's been satellite images showing trucks and so on and so forth moving across tactically to support the Taliban in Pakistan. So the whole region, this is the thing, Ilana, that the whole region is becoming so unstable. And that's not down to Afghanistan. It's down to America and Britain and the rest of them, isn't it?
Yeah. Very volatile. Definitely.
Yeah.
However, there's the other point that the Taliban definitely will probably want some respectability. And so the adults in the region, and yet we are not the adults, because if you look at CNN or MSNBC, it's just a bunch of females, some of them with a Y chromosome, as I repeat myself, a bunch of females wanting to uplift and shelter and hug and love all the Afghanis and bring them to join the Latin America that is streaming into the United States. So that's our focus, is loving them, harboring them, bringing them in, helping them. But China and Iran are actually doing foreign policy, sensible foreign policy, and negotiating with a fait accompli, which is the Taliban on the ground.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's a classic geopolitical lesson in how to do it on the one hand and how not to do it on the other hand.
Yeah,
for sure, Ilana, there's no doubt about that. In the UK, I mean, our primary concern has been this week. We had a great story. We had one of the many flights from Afghanistan. They came back to the UK. Again, I'm not sure if Purple Heart would have been involved in this one, but lots of them arrived back, and they discovered mid-air that one of the guys on the flight was on the no-fly list, i.e. a suspected terrorist. Imagine my surprise. Well, I was shocked at this. And then, so he landed at a place called Birmingham, UK. And they thought about it and they decided, we'll just let you into the UK anyway. It's fine. We are the world. Let's join hands and send the love. So I'm sure this guy and many others from Afghanistan will be sending a lot of love here in the UK. Actually, I don't know if you've been to Birmingham, but to be honest, if the choice was Kabul or Birmingham, I'd probably stay in Kabul, but each to their own.
Really? Oh, no.
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Is it that degraded? Why?
Oh, well, it's deeply enriched. It's a deeply enriched,
enriched. Okay.
British city.
I see.
Almost unrecognizably British, but all the multicultural people love Birmingham. But yeah, so here we had actually, another example. And again, apart from this one story, everything else is good. And we've got, and I don't know again what this position is in the States, but we've got in Britain, we've got all the local councils falling over each other to bring them to their particular areas. Now, that's interesting because we do have homeless people. We have veterans who sleep on the streets. We have waiting lists for public housing. Doesn't matter. The Afghans go to the top of the queue.
Well, of course, but why? Why, as you pointed out in our exchanges, the hatred for your own constituents in the Anglo-American sphere it's not even as pronounced in Europe. It's to a slightly lesser degree in Europe, but the hatred for your own is so pronounced. And for me, as someone who grew up in Israel, came from South Africa, this is quite a new thing, the hatred for your own, and it's very WASP. It's very it's very WASP. What can I say? I mean, yeah, we should. That's a subject for another discussion.
We'll do a different hard truth in that one, but it burns. Yeah. It burns bright. And so as we say, so the UK is going to have a big chunk of Afghanistan to remember. Well, certainly a big chunk of Afghanis over here to remember Afghanistan with, and it looks like the US as well, because Uncle Joe seems to want to match those coming from the southern borders from those coming from that remote.
I mean, David, you complain about one Taliban terrorist given a hero's welcome. Look at us. You have no sympathy, my dear.
I did. Well, you pulled me up on this one before, and I remembered that because I was complaining about the fact that we had, I think it was a dinghy full of 40 or 50.
14 kids, 14.
Yeah, 14 it was, all right, yeah.
And I was saying, but for the grace of God, you know.
Well, exactly. Yeah. But it does come down to the fact that ultimately our governments in the US and here in the UK, they really they've completely. This is so wrong. What's happening? The whole sense of priorities and everything around it, ILANA. It just depresses me that we've got such supine, weak leaders and a supine, weak media who won't call out the tough truths about what's going on and what will continue in that region. Because because that region is now going to become very different, and not in a way that's good necessarily for Western interests, but as you and I said, we shouldn't have been there in the first place. So
no. And just before we, I know you're probably wanting to wrap up. The matter of the other adult in the room, in the neighborhood, and that is Iran, who are predominantly almost exclusively Shia Muslim.
Yeah.
What was interesting to me is the Shia, and that's another part of how strange our alliances and allegiances are. We are mostly allied with the Wahhabi, the Sunni axis of evil, and the Shia are terrified of the Sunni, especially because they are so much more extreme than the Shia. I mean, we don't speak about that, but in Iran, women can study, work, hold office. They can do anything so long as they veil. In Sunni countries like our good friends, the Saudi Arabians, where Wahhabism is the rule, is their poison of choice, women can't do those things. So it's funny that the other mantra that we have to hear all continuously, if you're a good American, you're going about Iran, the Taliban, Iran, bomb Iran. However, Iran is wary of Afghanistan because they consider the Sunni insanity, let's put it that way. They are afraid of the Sunni radicalism. They are afraid of incursions, and they want to make sure that the crazy Sunnis stay on their border. So they are negotiating about that because the Shia view themselves as more modernized and more enlightened. We don't. But as I always say, we don't know Shia from Shinola.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great line. But it's true. I mean, ILANA, and again, it is actually it's a hard truth. We are certainly the Western world is aligned with Wahhabism, and for years, decades, I've gone on about. I used to go on about that a lot. I gave up eventually talking about it, the dangers of Wahhabism. But yet, because it's so toxic, it's so poisonous. And yet we are kind of, aligned with them. And so, you can understand the Iranian position. But Iran is very much painted, and this is maybe a topic for another discussion. Iran is very much painted as, the real demon in the room and the one that we have to get tough with. So, it's remarkable, ILANA, the way this one's shaken out. Yeah. But just to finish with, I think that when things like this happen, it does shake out a lot of things that maybe you and I have talked about for over a long time, actually. And this is a chance to shine a bit of light on some of these very, very uncomfortable issues for some people.
Yes, we've touched on quite a few. We've touched on the Shia-Sunni paradox, the vexation, us being so allied with a Sunni whom the Shia regard as crazy. In fact, the other thing I found so interesting was that Iran has always had an influx of heroin into its country. It doesn't want that, the drugs. And it also has a minority called the Hazaris, and it wants, and they are Shia on the border, and they are also negotiating with the Taliban, not to. They don't want to see refugees, the small Shia community, stream into Iran, and they don't want to see the heroin. They want that stopped as well. So these people are all, as you and I have touched on the issue of national interest, negotiating with a facts on the ground with the Taliban who've established they control the country. That's it. That's the future. And they seem to want respectability because they are negotiating. They so far are letting the evacuation go on. Do you think they will carry on doing this?
Yeah, I think actually we can finish on this point, but it's a really good point. The Taliban are being very sophisticated in some of the things that they're doing. I read earlier today that apparently they've made suggestions that they would like to become a much greater part of the international political order, that they want to help fight climate change. And yeah, I know.
No way.
I'm not sure exactly how they're going to fight climate change, but they're saying all the buzzwords. So you see, earlier on I referenced goat herders and stuff like that. That's actually not accurate. There's some very savvy, smart people. They understand their own interests and what's right for them and what's right for our people. And that, ILANA, when you come down to it, when you distill it all, that's the difference. We don't. We are not interested in our national interest and our people.
Donald Trump made the exact point. He said these are smart people. In fact, he hasn't been on television since he made the very smart point. He said was it on Fox? He said these are smart people. They're not stupid. They're acting and they're very good fighters. And that's something that you won't see in the Anglo-American media. We are supposed to, the terrorists, well, call them what you may. They've established facts on the ground. They are indigenous to the place. We are not. And that's their country now. Got to work with them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think we've given quite a few hard truths there tonight, ILANA. So I hope if you've been listening to this, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've been watching it, I hope you've enjoyed the maps and all that kind of stuff. It is really important. One of the things I think, ILANA, the purpose of doing this is really to focus on maybe the things that others just don't want to talk about or don't even want to think about, never mind talk about. And we like to think about those things.
Yeah.
So,
David, you're selling us short. They don't come up with these truths.
No,
you're selling us short. Yeah. It's not that they have access to the brain power. They just don't,
Don't have it in the first place. Yeah. Well, as I said,
they can come here to Hard Truth and get these interesting angles that we bounce off one another. So delightfully. I love talking to you, David.
And unfortunately, the time always goes too quickly, but it has come to an end. So, ILANA, big thank you for being with me this evening. Thank you, everybody who's listened to this. Thank you, everyone who's watched this. Make sure, as I said at the beginning, that you've subscribed to this so you get notifications. And we both look forward to being back with you again next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye, then.